video is designed to focus on lighting and editing, two essential techniques when it comes to film analysis. You'll remember, if you've seen the previous video, that film is a deliberate form of communication, and that means everything is done carefully and on purpose. You'll remember that the director wants to create a particular atmosphere. Is the film supposed to be scary? Is it supposed to be funny? Is it supposed to be heartwarming? Is it supposed to be suspenseful? And all of the elements, not just what we see, but also what we hear, contribute to this. We're going to focus on two elements, colour and lighting, and then editing. So let's jump into it. In regards to colour and lighting, the first thing you need to remember is the less we see, the less comfortable we feel. Now look, just imagine where you are at the moment. If all of a sudden it went pitch black and you couldn't see a thing, would you be more or less comfortable? Probably less, because you don't know if anyone's sneaking up on you, and you don't know if you're about to walk into some kind of trap. Now that's a natural thing that film takes advantage of. Horror movies tend to be very dark for that reason. If we see things like dark corners or dark figures or shadows, our imagination comes up with what could be the worst possible solution, creating a sense of suspense or fear. In contrast, when we look at things like romantic comedies or comedy movies or action comedies, the lighting tends to be very bright. There's very few shadows and everything is clear and visible, because the director doesn't want us to be uncomfortable. They want us to appreciate the content and enjoy it. Interestingly enough, even in romantic comedy movies where the scenes might take place at night, the lighting is still quite bright, often with street lights or lamps or anything along that line. We very rarely see dark shadows and corners in that kind of film. Colour works in the same way. When we think about the colour of certain films, often we associate dull greys or filters with more serious content. Interestingly enough, recently superhero movies have become increasingly dull in their colours, lots of greys and kind of dark colours, as opposed to the traditional bright colours, and this is because the director doesn't want us to see it as a children's film. In contrast, children's films tend to be very bright, very alluring and appealing, and full of fun. Again, the colour that we used often adds to the content and enhances the atmosphere that the director is looking to achieve. Now, when we think about editing, this is another really important element that contributes to film communication. Let's look at a couple of scenes with the sound off. The first one is a famous suspense horror film called Jurassic Park. And you notice in this case what we're looking at is, when does the camera actually change? So for example, in a moment we'll see it suddenly become a close-up. So a way to really check the effectiveness of editing, or how editing works, is to actually count between some of the cuts. So we've had a cut in this case from the face of the boy, the cup. Let's try counting a couple of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3. You get the picture. In this case, you'll notice that I'm actually able to count to 7 seconds between cuts. Now this is quite drawn out in comparison to other films, and the reason for this is to create a sense of suspense. If you've looked at our previous tasks and our previous videos, you'll also see there's some interesting use of zoom and subjective camera here, but I won't go into that. In comparison to Jurassic Park, if we have a look at this clip from Captain America the Winter Soldier, you'll notice that the cuts are going significantly faster. And if I even try to count between the different cuts, you'll find that I can barely get a single second in. Let's give it a shot. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. You get the picture. In this case, you can see that the action and the excitement of the scene is contributed to by the fact that the cutting is so quick. Again, there's also some interesting use of subjective camera to make it seem like it's bouncing around and a lot more interesting. But generally, we can create a sense of pace and excitement if we speed up the rate of editing that we're actually putting in. Now, any film might be somewhere between these two extremes, but it just goes to show how that technique can be used. So hopefully, having looked at this video, you've got a good sense about how lighting, colour and editing can contribute to the intended atmosphere of a film, and you should be able to use this information in analysing your own clips and creating your own presentations. Thanks.